Good afternoon, and welcome back to Asgard, and welcome back to Sky Factory 3. So, last episode, of course, we took out the Wither and got our flight, and wow, is it amazing. It's so nice to be able to fly. And since last episode, I've been working in here, and got most of the stuff finished out. We also now have every single available chicken, and I've got eggs stored in here for all of them. Lighting is something, probably one of the next steps that we're going to do. We're kind of taking it floor by floor with the ship, and it does take a little bit. Because I know Dark was working on this area quite a bit, and basically this is all the chicken stuff, as well as a few additional things, like I see gravel in here. And then over here, this is all, for the most part, mystical crop stuff, and whatnot. And then over here we have compacting drawers for all of it. So, and in this area, I've still got to put in the staircase to go up and work on the floor. But this floor, for the most part, aside from lighting, and I've been kind of sketching out first, but I've been kind of coming up with a chisel design because I want kind of like some brass steam pipes running up in certain places and different things, and whatnot. And I was debating forever as to what to lay out between these chickens, between each row, and I decided that, and this has been growing forever, by the way, we are going to go with redwood. So, of course, that requires a 7x7 of redwood saplings in order to grow, and it also takes days. And at first I was like, okay, well, maybe it takes Minecraft days. No, it takes days to grow. So, we're still waiting on that thing to grow. So, also Mystical Crops, I know he was working on this a bit. And we've got a fair few of them done. As you'll notice, the fields are really kind of coming in. I had to set up this wheat farm basically because we had to seize so much topiary grass, so much, and you have to use the string mesh for that. So I just set up a wheat farm, and now we have 500,000 wheat and nearing that on seeds. But it does take, for the topiary grass, it requires 4 seeds and 1 piece of dirt per topiary grass. And I think all in all we had to save, it was like 12 stacks or 15 stacks, something. It was a lot of topiary grass that we had to sieve through. So that's why we have the sieves and stuff set up there. At the back end of the ship, this is where, of course, we're going to be setting up our fuel. I did quite a bit of testing, and I decided to stick with the vats. And the reason for that is because the magma blocks are slow. They are very, very slow. Like, I was thinking at first, like, well, maybe they're as quick as, like, witch water or something. No, they're not. Basically, you put the magma block on the bottom, and you put the barrel on the top, and then give it water. But it's about, I want to say it's about 5 or 10 seconds per percent. So in order to keep our stuff running, there's just no way. I mean, you would have to have a humongous room of magma blocks and stone barrels to even generate enough to run a generator. So I decided against that. Right here we have a quantum tank that's filling up with fire water. It's not running too heavy right now, and that's because, of course, we don't have power plugged up to that. We're going to be setting up power with transceivers, dimensional transceivers from Ender.io. I did have it plugged up and it was running for a minute, but we just don't have the power output. It literally, it knocks out the system within like 2 minutes, and then it takes a while for that system to build back up because we're at the point now where lava power is not a viable option. So, you know, I could plug it up, of course, to the solar panel, but I'm trying to abstain away from that. Plus, we have enough fire water to get us started. So that's what we're going to be working on today, of course. Like I said, the advanced generators. So let's go ahead and jump on into that. And luckily, we have enough manulin due to our manulin chickens. If we take a look here, and we have essence. We have a bunch of essence. We have a bunch of ingots. We have a bunch of blocks. We're good on manulin. So that's what we're going to be using for our turbines and all that good stuff. So let's go ahead and jump. No, not that. Let's go ahead and jump on in. last week, of course, was extremely busy, so I apologize there wasn't an episode for a couple days there for Sky Factory. I try to put these out fairly regularly for you guys to kind of keep you updated and do all kinds of fun stuff in Sky Factory. There's a lot planned for this series, and hopefully by next episode, we will have a second floor added onto the ship and start working on the back of it. Sorry, I'm rambling a little bit, but the back of it, we're going to work on that room. That's what I'm planning on doing after this episode for a bit, working on this room, and then once we get all that shaped up and everything, in probably the next couple episodes, we're going to work on the back, and that's going to be fun because we're going to be able to start putting on engines and making it look really, really spiffy, because I'm planning on having like the big blades and stuff turning on the back, and I think it's going to be really, really awesome. So anyways, that's enough rambling from me. So we're going to make ourselves a advanced generator. Now, if you haven't messed with this mod, it is really, really awesome, because the way it works is it allows you to build these large-scale multi-block generators where, like, for example, if you look at the turbines that we're going to be making, in a steam or gas-powered controller, you can have between 1 and 50 turbines. And for each additional turbine that you add, it's going to produce an additional 500 RF per tick. So you can scale these based on your power needs and all of that. Of course, they're not going to run constantly. If they build up enough power, if they don't need to run anymore, they're going to stop. So it's not a waste on liquid or anything like that. Now, looking through here, there's a large variety of ones that you can use. There's iron, there's steel, there's gold, there's vibrant. Really your best options if you want to go top tier, like it's Sky Factory, we have a ton of resources, out the gate. We can either go Manulin or Vibrant. So that's our options. I do believe that I'm going to go Manulin, as there's no real difference between the two. It's really up to you. We have plenty of essence to make Vibrant if we wanted to. But for those of you that don't know, purple's my favorite color. So I'm going to go Manulin. But it's, it's really just your preference. So now, anyways, to make these, you're going to need quite a fair few things. Now, also, before I forget, you can upgrade your turbines. You can make these upgrade kits, and you can just right-click them on. They just require an upgrade kit and the Manulin turbine rotor. So if you're in another pack, or you wanted to start this within Sky Factory before you had Manulin and Vibrant alloys and all that stuff, that is an option too, because you can just upgrade these. But we're going to go ahead and go for the big one, I guess you would say. Let's go ahead and get ourselves a few stacks of these turbine rotor blades. We are going to need them. And then let's go ahead and get our turbine rotors. We'll go ahead and throw these into the system. And that gets us 32. They are slightly expensive. And then what we can do, we need some of this iron tubing. So let's go ahead and get ourselves some sticks. So anyways, our iron tubing, we're going to want a fair amount of that. I would suggest if you're going to go, especially if you're building a full-scale advanced gen from the get-go, I would suggest you make a decent amount of that. Same for the redstone iron wiring. So we're going to get a bit of that. It's maybe a little bit more than what we need, but I do plan on adding additional generators to this, down the road and everything. Iron frames, also the same way. I would suggest you make a fair few stacks of those. So we've got about 1,000 of each, roughly. We can make more if we need it. And now we're going to need 50 of these Manulin turbine rotors. So I'm going to make a bit more of this. That's actually more than I need. But like I said, we're going to make more of these in the future, so I'm not too concerned. So we just need, 18 more. There we go. We got our 50, and then our 50 Manulin turbines. So easy. If you guys watch my All the Mods series, of course that series had to end just due to some instability and stuff and not being able to record at my normal recording times. The Manulin turbine took us, to get 50 of them took quite a few episodes, because I was having to I was quarry mining, all of that, for the cobalt and ardite. But this pack, it's so easy. Next up, I would suggest that you go ahead and get yourself a fuel air mixer and a gas mix compressor if you're doing a gas turbine. Now, if you're doing a steam turbine, that doesn't really give you any kind of benefit. But for the gas turbine, which is what we're going to be using, These are very, very nice to have. So, let's see, what are we missing? We're missing pistons, of course. And you only need one of these. I believe it even says here, yeah, it says up to one. Basically, it's going to increase fuel efficiency. The fuel air mixer is up to 135%, and the gas mix compressor is up to 185, and it requires a fuel air mixer to be installed. But there's really no negative like downside or anything to setting this up, so I would suggest that you just go ahead and do it from the get-go. So for this, for the gas mix compressor, we're going to need a couple of these, and then we're going to need, these are a little bit more expensive. They require 8 vibrant alloy each. So let's go ahead, we'll lay that out, and let's get our vibrant alloy. It's like, wow, something that we actually don't have made. But that's not a problem. I actually had this in here. I was messing around with some clay. When I was trying to figure out what to do between those chickens, first I was like, well, maybe clay would work. No, I didn't care for it. I was like, okay, no, that's not going to work. It took me forever to figure out what was going to go in between those chickens. It was a very large decision. And so next up, we're going to need to add a few other bits and bobs to this to get it going, because we can't just throw down a bunch of manual and turbines and start it up. So first up, we're going to need a gas turbine controller. This is, once again, fairly cheap, especially for us to make. And with this, you can actually see everything that you can possibly add to your turbines, you know, to this. So you can do redstone control modules. I'm not going to do that because, like I said, it's not going to consume fuel if it's not running. So, I don't feel the need to add the redstone control module because this is going to be one of our first primary power sources. So next up, I think I want some fuel tanks for this. And let's go ahead, as per the rest of this, let's go ahead and go big. And we're going to go for 10 of these. Why not, right? We're going to make this thing a big monster. That's what we're going to do. Now, in all the mods, I only used a couple fuel tanks, and that's fine. You know, it doesn't have to have that huge buffer, but I figure why not? We might as well have a bit of fun with it. Basically, it's going to increase the amount of fuel that it can hold. Now, these advanced pressure valves did complete, so let's go ahead and snag our gas mix compressor. There we go. And we're actually running out of inventory space here. And then next up, we need to decide on some basic or some power capacitors. There's basic, there's advanced, and there's high density. Now, technically, you wouldn't have to have a bunch of power storage, but once again, I like having the buffer, you know, just because I can. And if we take a look here at the controller, the power capacitors, you can have up to 10 of these as well. So we're going to go big. Why not? The basic requires, of course, basic capacitors. The advanced takes double layer, and the high density takes octadic. And these are tier based, so you are going to have to build these up. So let's go ahead and get started. Of course, we ran out of coal. We are going to, in the very, very near future, we're going to be working on auto crafting a bunch. So basically, we're getting, you know, this whole area sorted out and everything, storage and power, and then auto crafting. We'll be doing that probably next episode. I'm not sure. I have a couple different thoughts on next episode, so it might not be auto crafting. There's another one in particular that I really like to get up and going, so that's probably what we'll do. But then probably the episode after that, we will be doing auto crafting. We'll be focusing on that because I know we haven't covered processing at all. We do have a processing pattern encoder. That's just for the solderer, just to make our personal lives a little bit easier. But we will be diving into that. Then next up, we're going to need some power outputs. So there's a few different options. If you look at the controller here, at the power emitter module, you can have up to 6 different outputs, you know, on these big multi-block generators. So you have a few different options here. You have the flux generator that can produce redstone flux. I can't remember which one, the energy, it's like another power source. I want to say it's like Buildcraft Power. It's one of those that, you know, and then there's also an IC2 version, but since IC2 is not in the pack, if I recall correctly, which it's not, that generator is not present, or that, you know, emitter is not present. And the energy emitter, I can't recall. It's one of those other like really obscure energies that can also use redstone flux. So I just say RF, you know. But anyways, we're going to go ahead and get this one. So let's go ahead and snag that. Or it's, you know, it's some, I don't need those. I don't even know why I'm making those. But basically it's one of those other ones. I can't recall off the top of my head. And like I said, you can add up to 6 of these. I'm just going to do, we're going to go ahead and snag 2 just because, you know, I went big on everything else, but the power output isn't that big of a deal. There's one other thing that we're going to need in particular, and that is fluid intake. So you won't need a fluid output. It's not going to produce anything like that. That's just for the heat exchanger and the syngas producer. But the fluid intake is very, very cheap. So go ahead and snag that. Now you can have up to 5 of these per you know, machine, but we'll kind of see. I don't know for sure that we're going to need more than one. So now that we have that, let's go ahead, and the way I want to lay this out is I want to start like right in here. We're going to go ahead and run this along, but I want it to go all the way up to here because that's the interior wall, and then we'll do something like that and bring it along, because you're only going to see really the front of it anyway. And I'm just going to start by kind of building out a basic shape with the manual and turbine blades. Now keep in mind, you could do this however you want to. If you just wanted a big long line, then it could be. So right now it's saying not connected to a valid machine. That's because I don't have a controller in here. It doesn't have anything to do with the shape. This can be any shape. You could do this as your exterior wall or on a ship if you wanted to. Just as long as all this stuff is plugged up and connecting, then that's fine. So anyways, we're going to go with something like this. It won't look as awkward back there once the wall's in, because of course the wall's going to be right there. But I know for starters that I want to go ahead and remove this manual and turbine blade, because I want to do a fluid intake valve back here. Because basically I'm just going to plug it up with refined storage and tell it to export that fluid from there. And by the way, all this stuff is pretty well basic setup. It's a lot of cabling, as you can tell. Basically, energy is going to both these vats from this line. Liquid is going from here into these. Items are going from this chest that does the potatoes, and then this double crusher that has the sugar cane. It's going into these vats. These vats both have exporters to get redstone and blaze powder to go into these. And then, of course, fluid comes out here. It's all pretty well standard stuff, setting that up. So anyways, our fluid intake valve is right there. Next up, let's go ahead and we're going to put our power capacitors, I think, in the center of this. Oops. We'll put the capacitors right in there. So that's fine with me. Our gas mix compressor, this can go pretty much anywhere. I'm going to put it right here, and the other one right here. So gas mix compressor and fuel air mixer. You do have to have both of those installed for the higher tier to work. So just keep that in mind. Our fuel tanks, I think I'm going to put them over here, because I think they would look better with, or make more sense with the fluid intake valve right there. And our flux generators, we're going to plug up one of them, I think, right here, actually. This is going to be the one that connects into the dimensional transceiver line, because that dimensional transceiver is actually going to get moved over to here right now, I think. And this power line can go. That was just a temporary placement. Basically, I wanted to feed power back into that, and then some power is going to get ran over to this stuff and, you know, kind of work in this room as well. So we'll put our flux generator just right here on the back, and we'll attach a dimensional transceiver line right here. Let's actually delete that channel, and we're going to call it Clockwork Power 1. And I know I don't want it to be, because I just realized that he probably won't be able to plug into this. We'll have to do some testing. So for right now, we're going to make it a public channel. We'll say Clockwork Power 1, and we're going to say send power on that line. And then what we'll do is we'll just change this one over here to receive power. And this is, by the way, this is going to be a huge jump from our like dinky little lava generators. So, because these things are what, 80 RF per tick each, so we had a whopping 320 RF per tick. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it over here. Solar panels, of course, just cover the farms. Let's say you're going to receive power from Clockwork. Power 1. And is it? Okay, I was about to say, it's not getting power, is it? This is just magically getting power from this line. And so over here, it's sending power. So let's just go ahead. We're going to plug that up. You'll notice that it connects. No problem. Of course, this isn't currently producing any kind of power or anything like that. And for the most part, we're not going to have a whole lot of power cables showing, but I feel, or conduits and stuff like that showing, but I feel like this little bit right here is fine. There's not a whole lot that I can do about that. Plus, this is a power room. So some cabling and stuff like that in this room, I think, kind of makes sense. So, by the way, this is going to be a different kind of wall. It's not going to be that wood. So, and actually, I just realized we should probably, let's remove this manual and turbine, and we'll put our other flux generator right here. Actually, we'll go ahead and break that line because we want, I almost forgot that we want this stuff to be powered separately, and the dimensional transceiver line, we want that open. So basically this flux generator is going to control this room minus, this is going to have some other power systems and stuff set up. But for right now, this is going to control this room, and this is going to go just into the dimensional transceiver and go into the system. But kind of what I'm thinking is right here, we're going to have the controller installed right there. And let me go ahead and just pull a couple off the back, because the back you're not going to see, the front you are going to see. And let's see, we have the full 50 turbines. So very, very nice. I wasn't sure if I lost one of those or not. And you can see that at peak production, if it's running full speed, it's going to be producing 25,000 RF per tick. So very, very nice. You can also see peak fuel consumption. We have 185% fuel efficiency. We've got our current production and our current fuel consumption. Now you can also adjust output configuration. You can see that both of these are conduit connectors. You can play with these and say, this is only on whenever it's getting redstone, or, do whatever. I'm just going to leave it always on because they're only going to output power when there needs to be power output. So not really a major issue. And over here you can see the amount of fuel that's in here. It goes through and it creates power. So we have 250 million RF storage within this. Normally I would, and by the way, that if you hit that, it's going to get rid of your buffers for power and fuel. So just keep that in mind. Basically, that would be useful if you want to change over power source or energy type or different things. But we're just going to leave it all as is. Everything's good. I like the way it sets up, and I hate power sources that run constantly and just keep wasting fuel. This one doesn't. I love it, and honestly, it's probably one of my favorite generators ever. It is a little bit OP. But it also, I think, balances it fairly well with expense because it's not cheap, to say the least. But anyways, let's go ahead and plug up an exporter here, and we're going to set it to fluid type. And then we're going to tell it to export firewater buckets. Because basically our firewater storage is set up with an external storage, so it'll export it, if there's need for it. And then, of course, we're just going to plug up our cables. Now, normally, what I was saying is, a second ago, and I forgot, normally I would set up some kind of a power bank, power buffer, that kind of thing. With this, we really don't, I don't feel like we have the need right this second. It's 250 million storage, so I think we're good. Basically, we just turn this into a big power creator and power storage. So we'll go ahead and plug that up, and you'll notice that this starts running. It's building up with firewater, and it's producing power at a massive rate. Massive rate. So basically it's producing 25,000 RF per tick. So even feeding power back into these things, it is just shooting up in power. So with this, we're pretty well good on it. So, and if we run over here, let's see, are we gaining firewater? Are we losing firewater? What's the situation with that? I mean, right now you can see that our peak fuel consumption is only 11 millibuckets per tick. That's what it's consuming right now. Doing 25,000 RF. So it is very, very powerful. Okay, I've been watching the millibuckets in the quantum tank, it's slowly going down. It's like 100 millibuckets every couple seconds-ish. But it's very, very slow. It is very, very slow. And, I mean, this is already getting close to being filled. Less than 100 million RF left, and this is just going to be done. And so we'll see this kind of throttle down. I'm going to give this just a bit to finish up filling, and I'll show you guys that before we end out the episode, because it is, I mean, these generators are absolutely wonderful. I played around with them in all the mods, and they were by far like my favorite power gen ever. And like with this, I can't remember the efficiency for the fire water, but you can see that it's like 11 millibuckets per tick at 25,000. There's a mechanism fluid, because all the mods had mechanism built in or added in, and there was a mechanism fluid, basically the ethanol, if I recall correctly. It's or biodiesel or something like that. I can't remember the actual mechanism name, but it's the bio method. I just use potatoes to fuel it. And the fire water, if I recall correctly, it's like the efficiency, the standard efficiency is like 1200 per millibucket, and the mechanism efficiency was 8,000 per millibucket. So if you have access to mechanism, these things are just absolutely OP. You set one of those up, and you're pretty much done with power generation forever. Because one crop of potatoes could run multiple of these generators, like easy, very, very easy. So of course, if you have mechanism and you have advanced generators, if you check all the mod series, we did cover that a bit. It was like 12 episodes or something in. So if you're curious about that, of course it's over there. And here we go. It's just about to throttle down. There's 249 and pow. You notice that it kicks off, and it'll kick on every once in a while. You'll see, it's not even using up a millibucket per tick generally. Whenever it kicks on, you'll see 1250 and then nothing. And it'll do that a few times, and then it'll go, okay, let's use a few millibuckets of this. So, I mean, it's very, 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 very efficient, very, very awesome. And of course, now our fire water buffer is going to rise. So as we add, like, more machines in the future and stuff like that, I will probably add on to our fire water production. Realistically, 2 more vats, maybe even just 1 more vat, would be enough to create 25,000 per tick without any loss. So I may just set up another vat, because I need another one. If you notice, there's 5 and it's kind of lopsided. We may throw down another vat and just say, okay, well, we're good on power for a while. It is very, 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 very efficient power. And I'm going to go ahead and grab this wireless RF battery. I had to dismantle that. I had to take it off the other day, or yesterday, because we just didn't have enough power production. Now we should be good on power. So this is now breaking again. These things really aren't ideal, so we are going to change up the power source and set up a dimensional transceiver over here and everything. But realistically, it's producing plenty of potatoes to keep that fire water production going. So, I mean, that's staying filled, the buffer on the farmer's field. So everything's good. I will say we will probably change that to farming stations in the very near future as well, and put them over here. Wheat could be changed out realistically. I'm probably going to leave it running just because. Yeah. That's like struggling to send it fast enough, because we don't have speed upgrades in this, I don't believe, for the extract. And it's, with these growth crystals, it's really OP, as you can tell. I mean, the stuff's just growing right in front of our eyes, like super fast. So, but yeah, with that said, I do believe that we're going to end out the episode. That pretty much fixed our power in one fell swoop. So, power situation, 360 RF per tick to 25,000 RF per tick. And now we can dismantle these dinky little lava generators and whatnot. Of course, the farm power is OP. Like, that solar panel is so powerful. And realistically, if we wanted to, we could upgrade that again for the tier 4, which we will do that in the future. But for now, no real reason. So, anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. And if you did, as always, be sure and hit that like button. And go ahead and subscribe if you're not already for more daily videos. Like I said, next episode, there's a couple different things I'm considering doing. But I'm going to keep it a surprise until then. I do think we're going to go, instead of the auto crafting, we're going to go with the other thing that I was thinking of. And I think you guys are going to love it. It's a lot of fun. It's another thing that I've covered in all the mods. But I think you guys will really enjoy it. So I hope you guys join me for that. And I hope to see you guys next episode. So until then, as always, do take care and stay safe. And I will see you then.